Newsfirst, Newsline.
Are you happy with the conduct of the public representatives that you have elected? Do you think that they are doing the best that they can for the welfare of the country? Or do you think otherwise? Well, if you do, you soon will be getting an opportunity to make amends to at least a few of these mistakes, because the government has already expressed their intention of holding the Provincial Council Elections before March 2022. Now, to discuss these matters and more, we've got with us the Executive Director of PAFFREL, Mr. Rohana Hettiarachchi. A very good evening, Mr. Hettiarachchi, and welcome to the show.
Good evening.
Mr. Hettiarachchi, now the government has expressed their intention to hold the Provincial Council elections before March 2022. But of course, there are some legal barriers that they need to overcome. There is a reason why Provincial Council elections here in Sri Lanka have not been held for the past 5 years. For the past 4 to 5 years, we haven't had public representatives in the provincial councils of Sri Lanka. Mr. Hettiarachchi, before we move on into what's going to happen next, can we get a bit of a background on what really happened in the past? Why weren't provincial council elections held? Why weren't there public representatives in these bodies that are supposed to be manned by public representatives?
Well, I think most of us know during the Yahapalana government, they wanted to change the provincial council system. In fact, they wanted to bring into women's representation into the provincial system. I think initial bill was the women's quota, but it was a one-page document at that time. But later on, they brought up the new electoral system with the 32 pages amendment. But we are happy that the women's representations, anyway, we got with that in the provincial system. But unfortunately, during that period, even though they completed the new electoral system in the legal side, but they were not able to complete the delimitations. So to have elections, now they have to complete the legal framework as well as the delimitation, because this is completely new electoral system. The delimitation committee appointed, and they have given a task to complete that within 4 months period. They have done it, but again, the parliament was not approved the delimitations report. There was various issues raised by the different political parties, including the minister who proposed that. Even the minister himself opposed the delimitations report. They couldn't pass it. But the legal framework has given, in case if the parliament did not approve the delimitation report, the speaker has to appoint the committee headed by the Prime Minister. But unfortunately, they were trained. But later on, they have appointed a committee with the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister. And again, unfortunate situation happened before they complete the review committee. 1 day before the former president dissolved the parliament. And now we do not have the delimitation report approved by the government, by the parliament, or approved by the president. So I think this is completely failure of the parliamentarians and the previous government and the opposition parties and all. All the parliamentarians, they were supposed to complete the legal framework as well as the delimitation, but they couldn't do it. So as a result, now the elections commission can't proceed the elections because they have a law with the new electoral system, but they don't have the delimitations. So now either we have to pass the delimitation report, or we have to agree the delimitation report in the parliament, or we have to come back with the new electoral system, or rather we can go back to the previous system.
Mr. Hettiarachchi, generally before an election, people wait for the election. People are eager to go and vote for their public representatives. But that's not the same ambience that we're seeing right now because, of course, the economic crisis that Sri Lanka is facing and the increase in prices of goods. People really are questioning the wisdom in proceeding with the Provincial Council elections, although it has been due for the past 4 to 5 years. Mr. Hettiarachchi, we functioned as a country for 4 to 5 years without these representatives in provincial councils. There are those who wonder, why do we need provincial councils? Why do we need the provincial council elections right now? Because on one hand, we will have to spend a whole lot of money on holding these provincial council elections, and many people are of the opinion that even if provincial councils are established, that's not going to make too much of a change in the lives of the general public, in the lives of the people, the lives of the constituents. As an election monitor, what is your response to these people?
As you perfectly correct. Now, whether in this existing the health issue, and also with the economic crisis, the health crisis, so whether it's a good time to go for a provincial elections. On the other hand, as you mentioned again, now we have an experience in the past. There were so many months we didn't have years we didn't have a local government mechanism in the past. And Parliament also during the first stage of COVID, without Parliament we run the country with the President a couple of months. Now again the provincials, now the elections are due almost 4 years. So without the elected representative, it has properly run. So in this crisis, the question is, with this crisis, the people don't trust about the politicians. Even the Parliament are failed to do anything for the public now, because as you correctly mentioned, the prices are going up, the rice and various other the basic needs. The expenses are quite high. I mean, the government is failed to control that, but that is because of not only the economic crisis, but at the same time we need to consider the COVID crisis. But whoever running the country, that the situation may be not much differ, but that is the people's representative duty as a parliamentarian, as a president, and the other tiers of the governance. But the provincial elections, of course, that is the league, that is there with the Sri Lankan legal framework. So we have 4 years in the country for the people's representative, local council, provincial council, parliamentary, and the president. Now, without the provincial council elected members, it has already run. All the expenses are mostly the same. Only the difference is the provincial councillors' expenses. But the issue here is, now one person, directly the president representative, run the provincial council. So all other expenses go under him, the chief secretaries and the governor. So without the people's representative, you can't run this structure for a longer period. Maybe the short period, that will be fine. The issue is, again, the government officials are not directly responsible to the people, but the political representative, anyway, they are responsible, at least during the election period. I mean, generally we know that the politicians are not responsible. Because if they are responsible, then we will have a different country now. So after the last 73 years, after the country for Sri Lankan citizens, with the three representative tiers. But unfortunately, the politicians are not responsible as such. But theoretically, without having people's representative, you can run the long period. And on the other hand, as I mentioned earlier, except the elected members, the provincial council system is functioned under the president's representative. So that is, I mean, you can't go like this for a longer period. So that is why we need to have a provincial elections. But on the other hand, we heard that the Indian, we do not know whether it is true or not, but we know the one fact that in 13th amendment brought up just because of the Indian pressure and come up with some sort of solution for ethnic issue. So the issue, even the war was ended, but the reconciliation part, power sharing part still remaining. Therefore, so you can't ignore the provincial system without bringing the new alternative mechanism. I mean, if we are not happy the provincial system, so we can consider the new system. But the provincial system is at the moment, it is in the legal framework. So the government duty is to have that people's representative, the provincial system in place. If they wanted to change it, they can change it with the new electoral. I mean, now they have appointed the Parliamentary Select Committee for electoral reform. At the same time, the Constitutional Reform Committee also established. So if they want, if the government, if the public, people of this country wanted to change the provincial system, yes, that's there. But till that, the existing mechanism has to be in place.
Mr. Hettiarachchi, now the government has said that they are planning on holding this election before March 2022. Of course, there were many promises made by not only this government, but by successive governments saying that they will change the constitution in a year, they will change the electoral system in a year. So this promise that the provincial council elections will be held before March 2022, is it a practical promise? Can it be done in reality?
If they really wanted to do that, yes, they can do it. Because the simple amendment, they can go for elections. The delimitations report, I don't think that all the political parties within a short period, I'm not sure whether they can come up some sort of agreement. But the one thing they can do, they can go for a previous the last electoral system, the proportionate system with the preferential vote system in the last provincial election for a temporary period. So the simple amendment, they can change it, but then again it has to go to the cabinet. There should be cabinet paper. Then it has to go to the attorney's department. Then go to the parliament. Then again it has to come back to the cabinet and the parliament. First reading, second reading. So within 3 months period, they can do that. But we do not know whether the governments do have real intention. So far, we didn't hear that such a demand from the opposition parties also. And on the other side, that we know that with the COVID situations, the people's gathering, having rally will be little challenging. So therefore, there's no guarantee whether the government will go for elections. But if they really want, I think within short period, easily they can pass it in the parliament. The other signal which they have given, whether it's like or not, I saw in the papers today the government has declared that certain the development program in the local government level and the provincial level. I mean, in a way, it is bribing the voters. I mean, as an observer's point of view, it's a bribing the voters just before the elections. They are talking about a lot of development taking place. This was done even in the previous government. I mean, the same way the politicians are behaving. So they think that whatever the situations now, if they brought up some development in the ground level, people will vote for them. So that is the political mentality. But that is in an observer's point of view, in a different way, or indirectly, it's bribing the voters. So, but that make us some sense or some message so that the government is preparing for provincial elections.
That they're serious about going for these provincial elections this time around. Mr. Hettiarachchi, we'll cross over to a short commercial break now, but when we come back, we will discuss about the nitty-gritties of this provincial council elections. What really is the difference between what the Yahapalne government had in plan for the electoral system and what the old system will look like now that we are going to hold the provincial council elections under that system. Again, stay tuned. You're watching Newsline.
News First, Newsline.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsline. We're in conversation with Mr. Rohana Hettiarachchi, the Executive Director of PAFFREL, an election monitoring organization. Mr. Hettiarachchi, we were speaking about the electoral system and if the government is really serious about holding the elections. You said yes, they are. My next question to you is, the Yahapalne government had different plans of how the electoral system here in Sri Lanka should work or is going to work, including preferential treatment for female representatives. Now, since we're going back to the old method, is the government trying to solidify this old method, go back to that and keep it stable at that, or are they really planning on moving on to this method that the Yahapalne government proposed, well, after this provincial council election at least?
I think in their manifestos, they clearly stated they wanted to change the electoral system. Even I saw His Excellency the President again said that I think very recently that he is going to change the electoral system.
He was speaking at the 72nd anniversary of the army, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. And now we know that the government has already appointed the Parliamentary Select Committee headed by Honorable Dinesh Gunawardena. Of course, PAFFREL also submit our proposals. At the same time, we know the local government system, which you have exercising now with the new electoral mechanism, they have appointed the review committee headed by I think Professor Sudhanta Liyanage, the Vice Chancellor of the Sri Jawaharlal University. We submit our report. And their report also now taken to the Parliamentary Select Committee for considerations. I think they are seriously considering to have a new electoral system. They basically talk about the mixed member proportionate system, but the maintaining the basic proportionate mechanism. Because in the ethnic, multicultural country, and there are 70 political parties are registered in this country. So in that culture, I think the proportionate system is really important. But we do not know whether they are serious about all those factors, because we have experience in the past all the electoral changes, whether it is a Yahapalne government or whether it's a present government. We have experience when they make some changes, even new amendment, new laws, they always consider the power circle. So we can remember in the Provincial Council Act, when they brought up one-page document during the Yahapalne period, they wanted to bring the women's representations. They shows the public that we wanted to give some fair opportunity for women's representations. But they brought up 32 pages with the completely new electoral system as a tactics for delay the elections. And we have a bad experience with the present regime during before 2015 also, how they staggered elections to get the power. And even the present contest, we know all the parties, even the ruling and the opposition, all are considering when they discuss about the electoral system. Most of them, I'm not saying 100% of them. Some are very serious about the electoral system, which is good for the country, for the future generation. But mostly, we know that they consider their power circle. So they look at the previous election result. They wanted to put into the new formula, and they see whether they will get the same number of representations. So whether it is good for the country or not, that is a different case for them. So in that situation, we do not know what kind of mechanism, what kind of electoral system they will brought up for the country. But I am sure they are seriously consider both the ruling and opposition, the new electoral system. I think they are looking for a local elections, they already changed in certain extent. Now it's a mixed system, but the basis is the proportionate, but the new mixed member proportionate system. So I think they are going to exercise that with the new, with the review committee report, and they wanted to go for a provincial and parliamentary in the same manner. So that is my understanding.
Mr. Hettiarachchi, now we've seen these elections taking place throughout the past few years. There were questions raised to a certain degree about the independence of the Elections Commission. However, through the 19th Amendment, certain matters were addressed. Members of the Election Commission were appointed through a constitutional council set up in Parliament from representatives of both the opposition and the governing party, also chaired by the Speaker. There was a vetting process there. It was not one person simply appointing members to the commission and having an authority or a council to be a rubber stamp. It was more than that. The Constitutional Council could have objected to the nominations made by the President. However, the 20th Amendment changed all of that. We have a parliamentary council now, which is almost equivalent to a rubber stamp. They are only supposed to give observations to the President, which he can either accept or disregard at his discretion. So the independence of the Elections Commission. Now, as an election observer, this is a very important matter that you consider as well, I believe. What are your comments on the independence of the Elections Commission? Is it ensured? Can we be sure of independent elections? We've had a few in the past, which is, of course, a good thing for Sri Lanka. But under these conditions, can that be assured, guaranteed?
Yeah, well, I fully agree with the background's note. Of course, the election commissions is really important to have a free, fair elections. But not only the elections commission, the police play a bigger role during election period. And also the media is playing the bigger role during the election period. Because equal playing field in this country anyway, I mean, we don't have much violence or violations now, but still, we don't have an equal playing field in this country, especially during the election period.
But Mr. Hettiarachchi, when you say we don't have much violence now, this was only about a maybe 5 to 6 year period that we haven't had much election violence. Before that, it was quite different, the situation, I believe. There were many murders taking place in Sri Lanka. But we've taken a turn to the better, which is a good thing.
Yeah. So before 2010, I mean, we can remember each and every elections observation report. We were talking about shooting, using firearms and murders. So so many violence took place before 2010. I mean, with the elections commission, with the police role and also the elections observers role, I mean, all these contributions make this environment. But it's valid question you raise about the independence of the election commission. I mean, as I said, the elections commission, yes, but there are certain other commissions and other authorities has to be independent. But if we come to the real point of the elections commission, yes, even in the 19th Amendment, we are not saying the 100% independency took place even during that period. So there are some political, the way they handle. It may be different views, and some people can say it is fully independent. Some may have a different views. But then again, with the 20th Amendment, as you correctly mentioned, there is no proper perusing mechanism. The parliament committee is just a stamp, and they don't have any authority, or they can't object. So it's complete the president. But even that situation, we have some experience in the past, even during J.R. Jayawardena's period. Even the people who have some political affiliations, but once you appointed, they can act independently. So we suppose even in these commissions, the elections commission, we know that there are some people with the background, there's some political affiliation. So we thought that they can act independently. So we are waiting to see because they with the new elections commission, we do not face any sort of elections with the new commission. So we are waiting and waiting to see their independence. But at the same time that we heard that one of the commission members appointed as a governor. Actually, that is very serious situations. I mean, it's undermining the rest of the elections. For my reading, the rest of the elections commission members also, because without having political affiliations, it's very rare. I mean, it can be very rare case, but we know that generally the governors are appointed with some sort of political affiliations, but he or she should be the capable persons. But there should be some sort of political trust, mutual understanding among the politicians when you appoint the governors. So in such situations, I think this is unfortunate. The situations, President, the appointment, the governor, and get the election commission member as a governor. I think that is some sort of issue with the independence of the elections commission. But still, we are waiting to see the first elections. Whatever the affiliations during the past, but once after they elected as the independent body, they can work independently. So we trust with the chairman of the elections commission. They will maintain their reputations, because we know, almost all the commissioners are quite senior people. So they don't want to have any sort of political gain out of it. I mean, if they're serious about their dignity. So this is the opportunity for the elections commission also to maintain the dignity during the next whatever the elections coming first. So then we can really judge whether they are fully independent or whether they are politically partisans. But with the pressure of the public, with the pressure of the elections observers and the political parties, we can push them to maintain the independence also. That is, it's a kind of the mechanism. I mean, all the government structures, there are some monitoring mechanism. So they have to be in the proper position. So we hope that with all these the outside pressures, so that also need to considerations.
Definitely, Mr. Rohana Hettiarachchi, and I believe the general public also will be wanting a free and fair election. They will be watching. They will hopefully, after the situation in the country, the economic situation in the country eases off a little bit, we hope that it will ease off before March 2022. Hopefully the general public will make a right decision when electing members, their representatives to the provincial councils. Thank you very much, Mr. Rohana Hettiarachchi, for joining us on our show this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much also to all our viewers out there for tuning into Newsline. Of course, we will continue to keep close watch on the situation here in Sri Lanka politically, and keep you up to date in this run-up to the Provincial Council elections. I'm Charlene Benedict for the Newsfirst team. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and God bless.
Newsfirst, Newsline.